Greetings. Welcome to 3-Minute Thoughts. I'm Susan Berg with the Highline practice, and I'm here to kick off a 4-part series on working through conflict, engaging conflict. I'm going to start today by talking about the building blocks of vulnerability. And then over the next few weeks, we're going to look at how do I see my part? Then we're going to look at letting go. And then we're going to look at the skills to moving through conflict. And I have to tell you that this has come up for me because not too long ago, I had this week, maybe from hell, but I'm beginning to realize it was the universe delivering me a message, where I had 3 conflicts to manage in 1 week. So I had to sort of gird my loins and really figure out, how do I be powerful and vulnerable and connected and all of these good things that makes conflict workable. And, you know, part of this is a couple of things. The reason we're going to break it down into a few parts is a lot of times we talk about resolving conflict. And not that there aren't times, of course, when there is a solution, but often, particularly in relationships, in leadership, it's the sort of rolling conflict that's always there, the sort of tapping into one another's flaws. And, you know, I do a lot of coaching and development and facilitation around the topic of conflict. And yet, you know, here I am caught in the middle of it, being human and having to see myself and figuring out how I'm going to stay strong, not in a forceful way, but in a vulnerable way. So I want to talk about the building blocks of vulnerability. But before I do, I also want to share one of my favorite quotes from Joseph Campbell. He was a philosopher in the 20th century. And he used to say, don't bother changing the world. Change yourself. By changing yourself, you change the world. So imagine if we all gained stronger conflict engagement skills, what the world could look like. So let's start here, right? So the first thing that happened in that week from the universe was it pushed me to step back and see myself a bit more objectively. And one of the things I really grabbed a hold of was Brené Brown's definition of vulnerability. Look, I teach this stuff. I know this stuff. But here I was right in the middle of what I know is not what I do. So I want to read her definition to you and then pull it apart just for a moment and use that as our stepping stone, our first building block in looking at how to engage successfully with conflict. Brené Brown said about vulnerability that vulnerability is not weakness. And the uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure we face every day are not optional, not optional. Our only choice is a question of engagement. Our willingness to own and engage with our vulnerability determines the depth of our courage and the clarity of our purpose. The level to which we protect ourselves from being vulnerable is a measure of our fear and disconnection. So if vulnerability is about taking risks, leaning into the uncertain, I can try my best, but I don't know what's going to happen because I don't control the other person. And being willing to emotionally expose myself, right? This is a big ask. So one of the things I realized is if I'm going to practice, I have to go first. The way we build trust is by being willing to go first. So the questions I'd like us to think about as we start down this journey over the next few weeks, I have 2 questions for you. 1, what am I afraid of that keeps me from being vulnerable? And 2, how do I practice disconnection so it keeps me from being vulnerable? So I know one of the fears of being vulnerable when you're in a job like I am, coach, teacher, consultant, is I'm supposed to be this expert, right? So I have to always be worried about being right, is that really some people say, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? But right can lead to righteousness. So I'm afraid of how to balance being powerful with being connected and empathetic and never being forceful. And how do I practice disconnection? Um, I say, oh, it's not that important. They don't need me. It's okay. There's lots of ways we can sort of put up the walls. So I'd like you to engage too. What am I afraid of that keeps me from being vulnerable? And how do I practice disconnection so that it keeps me from being vulnerable? So let's use these as the building blocks, and we'll keep diving in over the next few weeks. I'll see you next time.